What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Power Gamers Tactics Room. I'm your host, Bilbron Bowstinger. So today we're having another episode of my character build series, where I present to you the Bowstinger, yet another variant of the BladeSinger, as I'm focusing on Bladesingers today, but that doesn't even use a blade, but rather uses the hand crossbow. So before we begin, I want to mention that I saw another producer make a video talking about his process, and he mentioned that he got a lot of requests from his viewers to show his entire character sheets, all of his calculations, level by level stuff, and he refused. He basically said that his argument was that if he provided these sorts of things, then no one would watch his videos. And that if he didn't provide these things, then people would have to watch the whole thing multiple times because they would have to go back in and check stuff. And that it was much better for him to not do these things for you. And look, no judgment here. He's more successful than I am, so maybe he's doing something right. But I don't really approach this from a money-making perspective. I'm a philosopher before I'm a Dungeons & Dragons player. And I follow the heroic ethic, which goes by the 3 simple rules of heroism. Don't throw the first punch, stronger every day, and at least help people when it's easy. And it's this third one that kind of comes into play here. I don't feel like you guys owe me anything. I'm not really the sort that wants to manipulate people's behavior. My thought is that I'm going to try and help you guys as much as possible. I give you all of my calculations. Hopefully you're aware that in the descriptions of these videos, I have links to all of the character sheets. They're fully plotted out. They're actually way better than the ones that I show here because, for various reasons. But the DPR calculations are there. It's all step by step so that you can challenge me, challenge my math, challenge my decisions, make alternate decisions if you think that's best for you. And I already did the work. So to me, there's not much sense in trying to force people to watch my videos. I'm not about that. I don't like it when people try to do that to me. And honestly, I don't like watching videos that much. I'm more of a reader. So that's why I make every effort to offer these things to you in a way where you don't have to watch my video if you don't want to. You just go right to the description, go right to that link, check out the character sheet. All the notes are there. I'm sure you can figure it out. And that way we can interact and help each other grow. And there's none of this, you've got to watch my video. I mean, if you guys want to help me out and it's easy for you, like, subscribe, comment, and maybe check out the Patreon. But regardless, I'm so thankful for the time that you are investing in watching my channel. I don't feel like you owe me anything else, and I'm here to help you guys as much as possible, which is why I provide all of my calculations, character sheets, and all of that. So without further ado, let's check out the Bowstinger. So I put the setup and the first level stats up on the screen so you can see how we're doing this. We're going to be a variant human with Strength 8, Dex 16, Con 14, Intelligence 16, Wisdom 10, and Charisma 8. We will be using a hand crossbow, and we have the crossbow expert feat to go with fighting style archery. So I'm reskinning Bladesong as Bowsting here. Doesn't even use a blade, so it doesn't make much sense to call it Bladesong, so Bowsting it is. The playstyle I'm going for here is as a ranged martial who provides spell support and who likes to blast. I'm not doing any summons on this build except for the familiar, because I've been using a lot of summons lately. I do think they're probably the most powerful spells in the game, but people wanted to see something different, so no summons in this build. We're starting fighter as a multi-class is necessary because the wizard doesn't have hand crossbow proficiency. I could get it from race, but that would put off the crossbow expert sharpshooter progression. And honestly, I really like the fighter one dip for a BladeSinger. You get con saves, you get a fighting style, you get heavy armor. The fighting style is especially important for an archer build, as you really want that +2 to attack from the archery fighting style. That just synergizes with the sharpshooter power attack so well that you don't want to leave that on the table. So we do lose a level of spell progression. That's not ideal, but to me it's acceptable given the critical upgrades that we get for this build. We'll be starting with Scale Mail and Dex for an armor class of 16. And our approach is pretty simple. We attack and bonus action attack every single round, maybe throwing in a second wind as needed. Nothing fancy, but it will get us to level 2, where we add a level of wizard and get the traditional 3 cantrips, 4 preps, and 2 slots. For cantrips, we are going with Light, Minor Illusion, and Mind Sliver. Our starting spellbook will be Find Familiar, Tensor's Floating Disc, Mage Armor, Shield, Expeditious Retreat, and Silent Image. We will prep Mage Armor, Shield, Expeditious Retreat, and Silent Image. And we took Light as we don't have Dark Vision. We took Minor Illusion for defense and tricksiness. This is a character that's going to try and stay out of the melee, so Minor Illusion is always good for that. Mind Sliver as a strong save attack with an elite debuff. Also has no visible origins, so you can use it from inside a Minor Illusion steel crate without triggering investigation. I suppose I do need to mention here that illusions are ruled wildly differently from table to table. Your DM may hate illusions and refuse to allow them to work properly. I can't help that. I mean, your mileage may vary. I can only go by the rules as written without accounting for every single table and how they house rule things. We're adding Find Familiar for the Owl to get that fly-by help action and the typical defensive uses. See my Advanced Familiar Tactics deep dive video for more information about how to use familiars to their optimal capacity. Tensor's Floating Disc, as we needed a ritual because we had no available preps, but this one's also nice because we can use it to carry our backup armor for when our Bowstinger runs out. Hopefully, as a BladeSinger, you've gotten in the habit of carrying armor around because when you're out of Blade Song, there's no point in not wearing armor. We added Mage Armor and Shield as part of the standard Wizard defensive suite. No room yet for Absorb Elements, but we will add it soon. Expeditious Retreat to add a bonus action dash to enable or defend against kiting. You may have noticed that I include this in every single build because Expeditious Retreat is super awesome and it's right up there with Shield and Absorb Elements and such as Wizard must-haves in my opinion. And then we add Silent Image to create mobile cover. This is going to be key to our tactics going forward. Remember, we are archers. We're not eager to engage the enemy. We want to just kick back and pincushion them, and Silent Image is really going to help in that regard. You can use it to create the image of an atmospheric effect, for example, fog or smoke. This will provide perfect obscurement. You can see them, they can't see you, you attack them at advantage and can use sight spells, they attack you at disadvantage and can't use sight spells. That's exactly what you want. Now, the downside to creating the illusion of an atmospheric effect is that they may try to attack you from range because the illusion is of obscurement and not of total cover. If the illusion is of total cover, such as a steel crate, which is the sort of thing that you have to create with minor illusion, then they shouldn't attempt to attack it at all because from their perspective, there's no point of attacking anyone behind total cover because the attack will just fail. They don't know it's an illusion. But if someone is attacking them with arrows out of fog or smoke, they have no reason to believe that their attacks will be ineffective, so they might shoot back. That said, you have a pretty solid armor class and you are attacked at disadvantage, so I wouldn't worry about it too much, but do be aware about how the rules work in that regard. So the point of this is that we want to create a defensive embankment that's going to protect us from ranged attacks and spells. As long as you keep the illusion relatively far from the main action and use it as a platform from which to launch your attacks, it won't trigger the interaction end condition. They have to enter the AoE of the illusion to do that, and it won't trigger investigation attempts because it's not unexpected for arrows to fly out of fog or smoke. You see arrows flying out of a steel crate, you start to think maybe something is up, but that's the advantage of Silent Image over Minor Illusion. And one of the nice things about Silent Image relative to Minor Illusion is that you can move the illusion with an action. Obviously that's pretty bad action economy and you don't want to do that, but you can. Just do your best to place the illusion in a way that your enemies aren't going to be able to access it. But of course that's not always possible, so being able to move the illusion is very nice. Now of course we can use Minor Illusion for a weaker version of the same effect. You can't move the illusion, and it must create an object and can't create atmospheric conditions. So you're just going to have to be more careful with it and manage it better. If you attack with your crossbow from inside of it, it will proc an investigation check, or even outright failure of the illusion, depending on the DM. So you're not going to want to do that. If you're using your crossbow, you're going to want to move from behind the illusion and attack, and then go back behind it again so that they don't attack you. The downside of this is that you will not get attacks at advantage, as they'll see you when you step out from behind the illusion, but the upside is that they probably won't even try to attack you once you are behind total cover, again because they believe that it's total cover, and any attacks at total cover are expected to fail, so the rational response is to attack somebody else. Go ahead and check out my deep dive series video on Major Image for more information about how to use these illusions and how they tend to work. But now our round one is to cast Silent Image or Minor Illusion, plus, as a bonus action, Expeditious Retreat if we're using Minor Illusion in round one. and then we will open up our normal attacks in round 2. Going forward, most of the time, our round 1 is going to be for setup. We're not generally going to start attacking until round 2. At level 3, we add another level of wizard and officially become Bowstingers. We switch up our armor to go with mage armor plus dex plus blade song. We will, of course, carry medium or heavy armor around as a backup. To our spellbook, we add absorb elements and detect magic. To our preps, we add absorb elements because that's the last spell we need to complete our basic defensive suite. We're going to add detect magic as a ritual since we have no available preps. And now our round 1 is silent image or minor illusion plus bonus action bow sting on the first round. That's going to be our round 1 bonus action going forward. Round 2, we just attack as normal. At level 4, we achieve 3rd level wizard and add 2nd level spells. So to our spellbook, we add Misty Step and Levitate. We prep them both and drop Expeditious Retreat. And Misty Step, of course, is an elite bonus action maneuverability escape option. It's especially good for sharpshooters who can shoot from behind cover, because they can use it to access really good shooting positions that no one can get to. We added Levitate as a mobility or defensive option versus enemies with no or a poor ranged attack, because that's essentially an auto win versus those enemies. They literally can't do anything to you, so you're just going to levitate there and fill them full of arrows. You can also use it as a pretty strong saver suck versus non-flying enemies that also have no or poor ranged attack. And it also has a pretty interesting range of utility uses. I will be doing a deep dive series video on this here soon, but a great spell, Levitate. Slight dip to our DPR here is the target AC bumped up 1, and we didn't get an attack bonus, just a little note for the math geeks. And so now our round 1 will be Silent Image, Minor Illusion, or Levitate to go with Bow Sting, and then attack on the second round. At level 5, we add a 4th level of Wizard and our first feat. This is Tier 2, so I've just included a little reminder of what our spellbook and our preps look like going into it. To our spellbook, we add Web and Augury, and we prep Web. Web's an elite control option. It's excellent for a ranged martial, as he can just pincushion restrained enemies. And Augury's a nice ritual. We had no available preps, but it's nice to be able to cast divinations. They can be really helpful. And it might open up a prep for the cleric if that's an issue in your party, because remember, if he takes Augury, he has to prep it, but you don't have to prep it since you're a wizard and it's just in your book. So round 1 will be Silent Image, Minor Illusion, Levitate, or Web, plus bonus action Bow Sting, and then we attack on the second round. At level 6, we make Wizard 5th level and add 3rd level spells. We get a new cantrip, so we're adding Toll the Dead. To our spellbook, we add Haste and Phantom Steed, and we prep Haste. Toll the Dead is a nice ranged save option. 2d12 Necrotic can be nice if we need that energy type, but I mostly added this to combo with extra attack at the next level. It's pretty sweet for that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We added Haste as our primary concentration spell going forward. So far we have been mostly concentrating on illusions, but we are switching it up here. Because we are losing our primary defense from the illusions, we are going to be transitioning to using Phantom Steed to stay at extreme range. It's one of the great things about it. It's so fast, and you have so much range as an archer that you can usually get to the spot that you want and let range and environment be your defense instead of creating illusion. Although, of course, you can still use minor illusion if you need to. That said, do try to get a spell storing item to offload concentration. That's always good advice, but this build in particular, finding a way to continue to use illusions and haste is of high priority. We personally will favor haste, but if we could stack an illusion in there, that would just be really, really nice. We added Phantom Steed as a ritual as we had no available preps, and of course I love this spell. Elite maneuverability at no cost, excellent for the ranged martial playstyle. See my deep dive series video on Phantom Steed for more information about that. So now our round 1 is haste and bonus action Bow Sting, and then we attack round 2 going forward. That's plan A. Obviously we have other options that we can use for a plan B if we think that they're better in the moment. At level 7, we add a 6th level of Wizard and get our extra attack. To our spellbook, we add Fly and Fireball and prep them both, dropping Levitate. And we don't need Levitate because Fly is an upgraded version, gives even more enhanced mobility. Still an auto win versus non-flying enemies with no or poor ranged attacks. It's great versus flying enemies. And man, that base move of 60 feet that you get from it is sneaky fast. So I really like Fly. It's a nice plan B to have in your back pocket if you really need one. And Fireball is a reliable blast. It's the king of the blasts. And I think it's a nice role-playing synergy because this character is all about the rain of death. smoking you with sharpshooter power attack arrows and crazy good spells. So extra attack is an amazing add for this build. We can now attack 4 times per round with haste, pumping sharpshooter power attack through everyone. If the conditions are favorable to use sharpshooter on the crossbow attack, you can also use extra attack for Toll the Dead. You can use it against high AC or low wisdom enemies, and even when you get to the point where you're still hitting everything with sharpshooter, it will do more damage when your cantrips bump up at higher levels. So you damage the enemy first, of course, to maximize the damage. But even currently, it doubles the damage of an extra crossbow bolt if you don't use sharpshooter. And once you get to tier 3, it will exceed the damage of an extra crossbow bolt even if you use sharpshooter. So Toll the Dead is a nice add here to our DPR, and no change to our tactics. Round 1, we haste and boasting, and then we attack on the second round. At level 8, we add a 7th level of wizard and get 4th level spells. So to our spellbook, we add Dimension Door and Everett's Black Tentacles. We prep them both and drop Misty Step. Dimension Door, of course, is an elite mobility escape option that can replace Misty Step. I would prefer to keep them both in a vacuum, but we need to open up preps. We're only getting 1 per level. And I like Everett's Black Tentacles as an upgrade to Web for a control option. Like Web, it's excellent for ranged marshals because they can pincushion restrain enemies. And we're still keeping Web as a backup for now, as we only have 1 4th level slot. But it can be brutal in the right situation. And again, here we get a slight dip to our DPR as the target AC bumped, and our attack bonus didn't. No change, round 1, haste and boasting, round 2, attack. At level 9, we get 8th level wizard and a 2nd ASI. To our spellbook, we add Fire Shield and Resilient Sphere. We prep them both and drop Silent Image. I like Fire Shield for marshals as an excellent no concentration defense. The retribution damage will go off frequently if you're in close quarters, and the 10-minute duration is pretty awesome, so you can precast it aggressively. Fire Shield's not as good for this build as it is for a melee Bladesinger. Our first option is to stay at range and stay safe that way, but we don't always have control over that, and if we are in a close quarters scenario, we might want to use a Fire Shield. I also like Resilient Sphere as a fantastic ultimate defense panic button. Can proc it on myself or an ally. If I'm riding a Phantom Steed and I cover the steed, don't forget you can still move 100 feet per round. Though do check with your DM that covering your large Phantom Steed will also cover you as a medium or small rider. That seems to make sense to me, but of course your DM may disagree. And Resilient Sphere is also decent as a save or suck option. If we use it that way, we are going to try and set it up with a Mind Slipper if possible. We now pass all standard concentration checks with a +9 on our roll. And for the ASI, I started bumping our dex to bump that AC, attack, and damage. No change to our tactics. Round 1, haste and boasting. Round 2, attack. At level 10, we add a 9th level of wizard and add 5th level spells. We get Wall of Force and Contact Other Plane for our spellbook. We prep Wall of Force for self-explanatory reasons, one of the best spells in the game, and Contact Other Plane as a ritual as I had no available preps. It was this or Rory's Telepathic Bond. I tend to prefer Contact Other Plane because I like the intel. Plus this guy already has Augury, so it's kind of something that he's been doing, just better. No change to our tactics. Round 1, haste and boasting. Round 2, attack. Moving into level 11 and tier 3, we add a 10th level of wizard and Song of Defense comes online. Since we're entering a new tier, I've put a reminder of what our spellbook looks like and what our current preps are. And to those, we add a Firebolt as a cantrip. We add to our spellbook Animate Objects and Major Image, and we prep Animate Objects. So Firebolt's a nice alternative to Toll the Dead as our extra attack cantrip. It's a different energy type, it's an attack roll instead of a wisdom save, and it can easily destroy objects. And Animate Objects as an elite offensive option that offers increased DPR from range. I've put the numbers for it in the DPR column, and you can see they're pretty impressive. And don't forget, that's added on to your standard attacks. So if you have an Animate Objects up, you're doing like 50 damage around at regular and like almost 80 when attacking at advantage. We added Major Image, but we're not going to prep it. This is for a tactic I have in mind for later, but you can choose to prep it for special occasions. It is a pretty powerful spell, so if you have a day that's heavy on interactions or you've got some kind of plan that you might want to pull off, Major Image can be very good for that sort of thing. And Song of Defense is pretty cool. It's now online to help us manage our hit points and our concentration. And so now our round 1 switches up a little bit. It's going to be either haste or Animate Objects plus boasting. You can only concentrate on one. and oftentimes animate objects is going to be better. The spell's got some weaknesses to it, so you're not going to want to use it all the time, but at the moment it's a pretty strong opener. At level 12, we add another level of wizard and access 6th level spells. So to our spellbook, we add Contingency and Tensor's Transformation. Prepping Tensor's Transformation. That's a pretty sweet spell that grants a fantastic DPR bump of plus 2d12 force per attack, and you get 50 temporary hit points. So a pretty sweet spell for a Bladesinger that likes to pump out the martial damage. Our Contingency will be a fire shield on a command word or action. It's just awesome to be able to proc it as a free action, but it is logistically annoying to set up, so use it with your discretion. You might have to take a day off from casting or strictly manage your slots to refill it. And importantly for us, we can now cast Major Image as Permanent Image. Remember, we picked it up at the last level, and this was what we were saving it for. We can now create a permanent image of fog or smoke and carry it around. It's a little clunky, but you can do it. And now we'll be able to use haste, tensors, or animate objects and have an illusion to protect us. That is really, really, really awesome for this build. I'm very happy to get it at this level. Permanent image is really cool. So round 1, tensors, haste, or animate objects plus boasting. Round 2, attack. At level 13, we add a 12th level of wizard and another ASI. To our spellbook, we add Tasha's Otherworldly Guise and Odaluk's Freezing Sphere. We prep them both and drop Fire Shield as it's now in our contingency. And we added Tasha's as it gives us a fly speed plus an AC bump plus immunities as needed, so I always love a spell like that. Kind of like an upgraded fly spell. And Odaluk's Freezing Sphere is our shiny new blast. It has great range and area of effect, and you can hold it for up to a minute, so you can give it to your familiar and then combo it with a fireball or something to double up your Nova damage. Pretty interesting spell for a blast. And then we use our ASI to max out our decks. No change to our tactics. Tensors, haste, or animate objects plus boasting to start. Round 2, we attack. At level 14, we add a 13th level of wizard and add 7th level spells. So to our book, we add Force Cage and Simulacrum. We prep Force Cage, and both of these are self-explanatory. Every single one of my builds starts with these two. I think it's ridiculous not to start with these two because they're just so good. And while Simulacrum is always a huge boost to a wizard, it's especially a boost to this martial wizard. Because our Simulacrum has Crossbow Expert Sharpshooter and Fighting Style Archery, plus cantrips, so can generate a tremendous amount of damage without needing any spell slots, and that's pretty awesome to have in your Simulacrum. No change to our tactics, Tensors, haste, or animate objects, plus boasting on round 1, round 2 we attack. At level 15, we add a 14th level of Wizard and Song of Victory comes online. We add Delayed Blast Fireball and Teleport to our spellbook. We prep Delayed Blast Fireball because it's another solid blast, and we can combo it with our familiar Odaluk Freezing Sphere combo and a Fireball to triple up and get really excellent Nova damage. Teleport, as every wizard should have teleport in my opinion. We can't prep it here because we don't have any available preps, but it is nice to have in reserve. Can prep it if you need to travel or something. And Song of Victory is online, but it doesn't help us because it only applies to melee attacks. So that's a little bit disappointing, but what can you do? It'll still help us when we add Shape Change later. No change to our tactics, Tensors, haste, or animate objects plus boasting as round 1, round 2 we attack. At level 16, we add a 15th level of wizard and 8th level spells. To our book, we add Maze and Clone. We prep Maze for self-explanatory reasons. We have a Clone for self-explanatory reasons. Again, making level 8 should be pretty by the book for most wizards in my opinion. And no change. Round 1 is Tensors, haste, or animate objects plus boasting. Round 2 is attack. At level 17, we enter tier 4. So again, I put a little reminder of what our current spellbook and current preps look like. To our spellbook, I add Sunburst and Mind Blank and prep them both. Sunburst as yet another upgraded blast. This character likes to blast, so why not? It's like shooting his crossbow, but better. Mind Blank's a pretty decent no-concentration defensive spell with excellent action economy, by which I mean it has a 24-hour duration, so that means we can cast it before a long rest and get the slot back. That's pretty sweet when you're talking about an 8th level spell. And specifically, the immunity to charm is nice because we're weak against that. So yeah, closing that hole is always nice. For our ASI, we bumped our intelligence for obvious reasons, and no change to our tactics. Round 1, Tensors, haste, or animate objects plus boasting. Attack on round 2. At level 18, we make 17th level wizard and add 9th level spells. We put Wish and Shape Change into our book, and we prep Shape Change. Wish is self-explanatory. We can use it for lots of cool stuff. But Shape Change is wicked because as Bladesingers, we throw in that boasting, Song of Defense, and Song of Victory on top of an elite Shape Change form like a Marileth. and yeah, you are just rolling through things and having a great time doing it. Plan A still doesn't change. Round 1, Tensors, Haste, or Animate Objects plus Boasting. Round 2, Attack. At 19th level, we add a second level of Fighter to add Action Surge. I decided to go with this route so we get Action Surge here at 19th instead of adding an ASI for more intelligence at 20th. I just think it's cool for this build. We have a better Nova now, or we can just throw a spell into our normal attack routine, which is really sweet. So yeah, second level Fighter. No change to our tactics. Tensors, Haste, and Animate Objects plus Boasting on round 1, then round 2 Attack. Finally, at level 20, we add an 18th level of Wizard. We get Spell Mastery, but I totally forgot to put it on there. But probably going to be Shield and Misty Step. Anyway, to our book, we add Foresight and Meteor Swarm, and as preps, we add Foresight, because Foresight's an elite no-concentration spell for offense and defense. Grants has always-on attacks and advantage, which is just fantastic for this build. And it has an 8-hour duration, which means that you can long rest trick it if the DM allows to be rolling around with the power of an active 9th level spell helping you out and to still have a 9th level slot. Oh yeah, bring that on, baby. And I added Meteor Swarm as the ultimate blast to complete our blast progression. Don't really have room to prep it right now, but you only get one 9th level spell anyway, so we can bust it out if our daily itinerary includes long-range destruction of a town. Always a nice option to have when you're a badass wizard like we are. And even at level 20, our plan A doesn't really change too much. Round 1, Tensors, Haste, or Animate Objects plus Boasting, and round 2, we attack. So that's it. That is the Bowstinger. My take on a BladeSinger that gets the job done with a hand crossbow instead of a blade. And I think it worked, right? The blasts and the damage output was really strong, levels 1 through 20. Doesn't have a lot of the stuff that I like out of a wizard, like summons and things like that. But, you can't make wizards all the same, right? So I like this build. I think it works pretty well as an effective BladeSinger. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Always love your comments and pointing out, little nuances that might improve the build. And in any case, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Power Gamers Tactics Room. I'm your host, Bilbron Bowstinger. See you next time.